The Biden administration is once again moving to dismantle federal regulations that uphold religious liberty. Now, this time it's on college campuses. Last month, the Department of Education issued a notice of proposed rulemaking about its plan to rescind what is called the Religious Liberty and Free Inquiry Final Rule. This Trump-era regulation mandates that universities that accept public grants cannot deny funding to religious student groups. They have to treat the religious groups just like any other group. So, what's the justification for rolling back religious freedom protections on college campuses? And what could be the result of this rule change? And more importantly, what can you do to stop it? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Travis Weber, Vice President of Policy and Government Affairs here at the Family Research Council. Travis, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks for having me.
All right, so explain the existing regulation that was put in place during the Trump administration and why it's needed.
Yeah, so the current regulation basically says that colleges have to comply with the First Amendment in order to receive federal grants. And the way it does this, the way the Trump era rule did this was the courts would basically be the arbiters of figuring these matters out, the question of compliance, if lawsuits were brought around the First Amendment, and only when there was a final judgment issued by the courts at some level that the university was not in compliance with the First Amendment would the school be cut off. And so really the rule just looked to the courts and would wait, would wait until litigation played out as a determiner of whether the schools were in compliance. And the Biden administration wants to roll that back for purposes that it will not perhaps state on the face of its notice of proposed rulemaking, but we are very concerned that this is going to cause a rollback of religious freedom protections.
Now, Democratic regulators in the Biden administration say that the rule is not necessary to protect the First Amendment. And here's the justification they use for that. First, they say it's not a problem, but then secondly, they say, well, if the students encounter a problem, they can simply go to the courts and they can sue. That sounds easy, but it's not. You're an attorney. You know how difficult that is. The burden then shifts to the students and not the university.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing about this is it's almost like, I'm reading through the Biden administration's notice of proposed rulemaking and the concerns that they are stating are leading them to reconsider this. And it doesn't even really make sense because the current rule looks to the courts. The Trump era rule looks to the courts. And so, the Biden administration, Department of Education is coming in now and saying, we're concerned that this is going to cause a lack of clarity for universities, increase litigation costs. These are concerns that if they were truly concerns, we would see things being dealt with much differently in other areas. The administration is using a set of concerns here to reverse a Trump era rule. And I'm not really sure, nor should observers of this process be sure that their concerns they are stating are the actual concerns here. What they want to do is reverse a Trump era rule that protected religious freedom. And Tony, they're dealing with the courts question that we've been discussing in the current revision. The part about religious groups being able to exercise their faith is being dealt with in another section of rulemaking that the Biden administration will proceed with, not even this current process. So they're certainly dismantling what had been in place, and their stated justifications really just don't hold a lot of water here and don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think, further hostility toward religious exercise, the free exercise of religion on college campuses. It's not like they don't already dominate when it comes to the classroom and the curriculum and the agenda that the left is pushing. This will make it more difficult for students of faith to simply exercise as an extracurricular group that wants to meet on college campus and be treated the same. So let's talk, Travis, for just got a couple minutes left. What can folks do to weigh in? This is a rulemaking process, which means citizens can speak into this. How can they do that?
Yeah, so the notice and comment period is open now. It closes on March 24th, so later this week. And we have an easy way that people can do that. It's at frcaction.org/ed. So that's frcaction.org/ed. And that will take you to an explanation of what's happening here, some ideas for what you can present to the Biden administration for why you oppose this rollback of a rule that would protect religious freedom. We need to make our voices heard because they're going to look at what is provided, but they're also going to look at the number of concerned citizens commenting. And this is our opportunity to play a part in the process. And it is what we can do to take action. There are things we can't control, but this is one, you letting the Biden administration know what you think of this, which you can do at that link I mentioned. That is a way that we can play a part in the process. And so we're welcoming everyone to take part in that. We're also going to be submitting our own comment on this from Family Research Council and do what we can to let the Biden administration know that this is not an acceptable approach when it comes to religious freedom on campus.
All right, Travis Weber, thanks so much for joining us today. Always great to talk with you.
Thank you.